Hi, my name is Keyshawn Goldmus, and I'm presenting today on the subject of disaster planning for HIM 5363. Our objectives today include defining a disaster recovery plan, explaining who should have a disaster recovery plan, identifying the steps to developing a disaster recovery plan, testing the plan, training, that means the who, when, and where, and the impact of failing to plan. What is a disaster recovery plan? Well, a disaster recovery plan is a contingency plan that is designed to ease the anxiety around any unexpected event, such as a natural disaster or power failure. Its purpose is to assist the organization in getting back to normal business operations efficiently and effectively with minimal interruptions and loss of information. Who needs a disaster recovery plan? That's easy. All healthcare organizations and facilities need to have a plan. That includes short-stay facilities, traditional acute care, and long-term care facilities. Healthcare organizations need to be resilient, capable, resourced, sufficiently linked, and positioned to support a broad response in order to survive an incident or disaster, especially those that threaten the health of the public. Every organization must have a comprehensive disaster recovery plan that protects patient safety, secures health information from loss or damage, ensures stability and continuity of care activities, and provides for orderly recovery of information. Such facilities include hospitals, skilled nursing facilities, urgent care, wound or burn care centers, and birthing centers. And there's more, of course, that also should have a recovery plan in place. Developing a disaster recovery plan. That involves creating a list of potential disasters, updating and maintaining the policy and procedural manual, approving and adopting the finalized plan. It also involves the implementation process, the testing process or the testing phase, and the review for proper implementation. So the HEMA Practice Brief Disaster Planning for Health Information is a tool that can be used as a reference when developing a disaster plan. Additionally, it's always best to practice to reference what other practice referencing what other healthcare facilities have done when they were preparing or making their plans. So again, the first step in the process would be to create a list of potential disasters. So that would involve maybe a fire or a flood, tornado, earthquake, terrorist attack, hazardous material situations. One thing to consider is the geographical location and the type of natural disasters that that area is susceptible to. For instance, with California, you might consider earthquakes, where in Texas you might consider tornadoes. Okay, the next step would be to update and maintain a current policy and procedural manual for all core functions in your department. So for HIM, it's important to know what the downtime process is for health information management. The next step would be to approve and adopt the finalized plan. Then from there, you'd implement the plan. Now, the key factor with the implementation process is you want to make sure that your staff is properly trained, which is then going to lead us to testing the plan. So you're going to review with the staff to ensure that, the proper implementation took place. That would be probably the final step there. So I want to talk about training and education because it's really important to know who needs to be trained. With this disaster planning, you want to ensure that everyone is trained. New hires should be trained as part of the orientation process. Existing employees, they should participate in ongoing training. So all employees should be required to take annual refresher courses via web-based training and participate in emergency response drills on a quarterly basis. The trainings and drills should be conducted on site, so that answers the question of where. And then also, of course, the web-based training is held on site as well. The idea is you want to ensure that the training or the scenario is as realistic as possible. It's important to ensure that staff have access to the necessary tools to implement the plan. So if there's a need for a walkie-talkie or fire extinguishers, first aid kits, logs for MPI documentation, you want to make sure that those tools and resources are available. One of the most important factors when preparing for a disaster plan is communication. So prior to the testing phase, ensure that your employees are familiar with disaster codes. The disaster plan may have an emergency response color code incorporated into the plan. For instance, the color for fire would be a code red, or the color for a hazardous material situation would be a code orange. By educating staff on the proper terminology, the organization ensures that the appropriate warnings are being communicated throughout the facility. Additionally, it's also imperative to ensure that employees are aware of downtime procedures in the event the EHR is unavailable. Employees should be prepared to revert to the use of paper-based processes in all clinical and administrative areas of the organization. So the plan must also include a process for entering data and scan documents into the EHR when the system does become available. The idea again is to train based on the worst case scenario. So some of the things to consider would be what documents need to be printed, what's the maintenance backup, what does the paper system look like, or what should those steps include. Also a coordination of data entry or scanning of data elements. What documents should be used when reverting to the paper process, and are the right people trained to use them? Are there backup computers that are not connected to the network available? So if the network is down, can maybe encrypted tablets or mobile devices be used to upload information when the system is back online? So then we move on to the testing. The testing phase is really important. I think it's probably one of the most critical elements of contingency planning. So the testing phase includes testing and then again retesting. My recommendation is to have quarterly emergency response simulations and drills. So essentially simulations or simulation models can be used to test the efficiency of available resources inside of the facility. It can help to define bottlenecks and suggest ways to improve system performance. The purpose of testing and retesting the plan is to identify its strengths and weaknesses. It also allows for reevaluations and revisions based on the gaps found during the test. Key elements to monitor during the testing phase include, again, the documentation process. You want to make sure that we are aware of what are the downtime procedures. We want to evaluate what the potential solutions and alternatives are, the limitations and the benefits. We want to identify the tasks that need to be performed and who is to perform them. Also, it's important to verify that the assigned persons are in the right location completing the correct task. We also need to make sure that there's a contact list available to all key players. Additionally, monitor who's going to monitor the census and staff availability. Those are just some of the things that we need to keep fresh in our minds. These are questions that we want to have answered during that testing plan or the testing phase. And I recommend that we have these testing or even just refreshers done on a monthly basis. And that way, because there's no way to really use the last emergent situation to prepare for the next emergent situation. So just staying prepared is the idea and the goal. Again, accurate information could be the difference between life or death. So preparing is important. And that then leads us directly to the impact of failing to plan. So when we fail to plan, then we're essentially planning to fail. And in the healthcare arena, failing to plan can lead to the loss of life, negligence and malpractice lawsuits, and even a damaged reputation within the industry. Remember, disasters by nature are unpredictable, but with the increasing threat of terrorism, there's an even greater need to prepare for the unexpected. Recent events in Paris, Nigeria, and Syria have highlighted the importance of ongoing and effective disaster management training. Effective disaster response is preceded by effective disaster planning. I'll say that again. Effective disaster response is preceded by effective disaster planning. So insufficient staff training can lead to the loss of life. It can lead to malpractice lawsuits and can severely damage the reputation of a treatment facility. So the key is to plan. Planning and training needs to be ongoing for all staff members if disaster plans are to be implemented correctly. I can't stress that enough. That's why I continue to repeat it. Vulnerability resources and organization structures can change with time. So staff departures, they contribute to disrupting the team training, and retention of learning from procedure disappears when not practiced. As a result, organizations cannot rely on staff experiences, again, from the last disaster to prepare for the next one, because changes occur, and we have to change and plan and prepare for each unique disaster that could occur. Continue training in informal disaster management courses and practical exercise and mock disaster situation also needs to be a part of the ongoing training for all staff members if disaster plans are to be implemented correctly. So the impact of failing to plan, again, could be literally the loss of life, negligence, malpractice lawsuits, and of course a damaged reputation. So let's do everything that we can to plan for success. Again, this is Keyshawn Goldmass presenting on the subject of disaster planning. Here are my references, and I'm open to any questions that you might have. Thank you.